If you drive in Florida and you don't know the difference between liability, PIP, it's literally like if you're stepping into the boxing ring without any boxing gloves. I'm Attorney Rosas. I'm going to be telling you what car insurance you need and the one that you should get to protect yourself and your family. First, there was this client of mine that called me in the other day. She was rear-ended, had to go to the hospital. Medical bills were over 60,000. She had to open up a claim. We went through the insurance companies, finding out what insurance information the other party has. First, because she was rear-ended. Second, because that's part of what we do on every single car accident case that we get. We do some due diligence. So what we do is we find out that information. We reach out to the insurance, see what the other party has, see what our client has, and go after those coverages to pay for all of this. What, over $60,000 on medical expenses? That's crazy. So we want to find out that whether there is or not. We ended up finding out that our client didn't have any uninsured motorists. The other driver didn't have any liability. So what happens then, right? My client was out of luck. She couldn't get any type of coverage because the other driver didn't have any coverage and she had not purchased So you might be wondering, what are those things that I'm talking about? Liability, the ones that I mentioned, PIP earlier. So let's go one by one so I can explain it better, but also so you understand which coverage you should need, what you should get. So let's start with the basics. Liability. Liability is coverage for physical injuries that you are responsible for. So for example, if you had rear-ended someone, you caused the other person some type of physical injury, that you hurt them physically, they need to go to the doctor. Liability is the coverage that you get to cover that other party. There's two types of liability: bodily injury liability, property damage liability. Property damage is for the car. Bodily injury, it's for physical injuries. And those two coverage, you don't need to get them together. You can buy those separately. Most of the time when someone buys coverage for liability coverage, they tend to buy both of them. You don't want to be stuck with paying for those damages that you caused on an accident because of literally an accident, a mistake. So definitely liability is something that you want to carry. But let me tell you, in Florida, you don't have to. This is a no-fault state. So that means that you must only carry personal injury protection, PIP. With that said, let's go to that one. PIP, it's the coverage that covers you personally, your relatives. You can exclude people from that coverage. You can exclude certain portions of that coverage, but mainly it's covering personal medical expenses, work loss, driving to and back from appointments so they can give you mileage reimbursement. That coverage can be modified and changed, but in Florida, you are required by law to carry personal injury protection up to $10,000. And it can include your relatives, you can exclude them, you can exclude work loss. It tends to fluctuate on the price, but all drivers in Florida have to carry that one. So in case you're in an accident, you do have some coverage that covers you for medical expenses, that covers you maybe for wage loss, mileage reimbursement. In case someone else that hits you, like my client got hit by someone else, not her fault, but she carried at least personal injury protection, she carried PIP, and she had at least $10,000 to cover for those medical expenses. So she's not fully out of luck, but she has minimal coverage. We would have loved to have her more, so that's where we come in. That's the other type. It goes to your policy. And that coverage, it's uninsured motorist or underinsured motorist. That is an extra coverage that you have to purchase. You don't necessarily have to, but it's a coverage that you can purchase, and it goes in increments, just like bodily injury or property damage, like liability coverage to third parties. For you, it covers you in excess of someone else's coverage, but also in case that other person doesn't have any coverage for you. There's no bodily injury, so that uninsured motorist covers you for those medical expenses on top of what other person has, or if that other person doesn't have anything, comes in on top of your PIP coverage and it adds more. That one, it can compensate you for your medical expenses, but loss of enjoyment of life, which is just the fancy term to saying like your pain and suffering, okay? But that coverage is to you. What other coverage are out there? Well, you have rental coverage, you have roadside assistance. Usually those are part of your own coverage. You do carry as well comprehensive collision. Comprehensive, it means that it's coverage for property damage of your vehicles, if you have more than one. But it's your vehicle in case something were to happen. Let's say you suffer from vandalism, they stole your car and then damaged it a lot, or a tree fell on your car. That's part of the comprehensive. Collision is in case you are in an accident, either your fault or not your fault, that covers for property damage of your car, so you can get it repaired. Those coverages have a deductible. Anything like it goes to you, for example, PIP, collision, comprehensive, tend to have a deductible that applies to you, and you can modify them. But I would always recommend get something that you are comfortable paying out of pocket. So if you're comfortable paying $1,000 that you always carry in your stash, like on your savings account, then by all means go for $1,000 on deductible. But usually we would recommend a $500 deductible because it doesn't increase your rate too much, but it's something manageable. Most of the people can come up with $500 in an incident like a car accident. If you can afford going a little bit lower, the rate might be a little bit higher, but then it's a lower deductible payment. So it all depends, but you can play around with the numbers when you're getting your next quote. Roadside, rental car, those ones are a little bit extra. They add a little bit more into your premium, but they're totally worth it. Some of the clients, when they're in an accident and that other person hits them, like mine that got rear-ended, that other person didn't even have any liability coverage, so couldn't get a rental. She also didn't have rental coverage, so she had no car, like nothing to pay for her car, no coverage. There was no rental cars, so she's out of luck. Like literally, she has no wheels. That's crazy. But you can get those. I will tell you a little bit about my coverage so you see what I carry. You don't have to go super expensive, and I'm actually going to be disclosing this. I'm going to be telling you which coverage I have and what type of coverage I got. And you'll see like it's not super outrageous. So let's go a little bit more into that. Let's actually talk about my coverages. I pulled out my declaration page and I'll share it with you guys so you can take a look. I carry bodily injury liability. It's 100,000, 300,000. So if you see the numbers, it's a little bit weird. Like it says limits and or deductibles. There's no deductible for bodily injury liability, but it is 100,000 it's per person, 300,000 per accident. So that's per occurrence. It means that in each individual accident, if there is one person that got hurt, that other person will be entitled just to $100,000 of the coverage. If there were 3 people in their car and it was the driver and 2 passengers, then they're they opened up the $300,000 available, but maximum they can only get 100 each. If there were 5 people in that car, let's say the 2 parents and 3 kids, then it would have to be split all 300,000 among all 5 of them. That's what it means. Most of the loan companies, if you have a loan on your car, they will ask you to get $100,000, $300,000 bodily injury liability. They always sell it to you like, hey, get full coverage. That's just a myth. Full coverage doesn't mean full coverage. Full coverage, they just mean like, oh, you're covering comprehensive collision, covering your own car, and then you have some liability coverage for someone else, like bodily injury liability of what we're discussing. Then I carry another one, property damage liability, 100,000. That's in case I ended up hitting a car, brand new car, it gets totaled. $100,000 it's available to cover for all of those property damage for the car alone. And usually that entitles the other person, the victim from the accident, to rental coverage from that 100,000 as well. If I were to hit 2 cars, it's $100,000 split between the 2 cars. This is not a per person thing. This is for per accident, 100,000 for all the property damage. But it doesn't just apply to cars. It also covers property damage to houses, if I were to hit a pole, if I ended up hitting a fence, all of that falls into the property damage. Then I have uninsured motorist, and it says non-stacked. That's a little bit tricky. And I always tell my clients, get what you really need. In my case, I only have 1 car. So they doesn't mean, it doesn't, I don't need to get a stacked version, because what it does is uninsured motorist, and if I have 2 cars, they stack it. So they multiply by the number of vehicles that I have. And that coverage that you see there, I only have a $10,000 and $20,000. So $10,000 per person, 20 for the full accident. That is, again, for my medical expenses, lost wages to pain and suffering, etc., etc. But that coverage, the uninsured motorist or underinsured motorist non-stacked version, it's a little bit cheaper than the stacked one. And because it's a little bit cheaper and I don't need a stacked one, I make sure that whenever I request my new policy or I change it out, change the coverages, I make sure that I get what I need. If you and your family, let's say you have your car, your wife's car, your children's car, you won't probably want to stack them because it will multiply 10,000, 20,000 by the number of vehicles. So instead of being 10, 20, it will be 20, 40 for 2 vehicles, probably will be 40, 80 for 4 vehicles, etc. So it multiplies by the number of cars. And I will recommend to get a stacked version just because you get more for your buck, more bang for your buck on these ones. I forgot one actually, personal injury protection. I carry PIP coverage, and this is the one that's mandatory for everybody. In Florida, you must carry that, and that's why they call it a no fault state. I mean, like, doesn't really matter if you're at fault or not. You and everybody on the road must carry their own insurance. That's why they call it no fault. So they don't really care about fault. I carry a $250 deductible, and it's covering insured and rel. It says relatives. So that means that I only pay a $250 first up front, and then anything past that up to my 10 grand of coverage gets paid to the medical doctors for my treatment. And if I'm carrying a relative like my parents, future kids, I don't have yet, but future kids, wife, anyone that's a relative of mine that's riding with me, it gets covered under my PIP coverages as well. So they get those $10,000 available as well to them for their medical expenses. With regards to the next coverages are comprehensive. And it even says between parentheses, excluding collision, comprehensive, I carry $1,000. With that is in case something were to happen to my car, I'm okay putting up $1,000 in to get the car fixed. So the first $1,000 are gonna be coming out of my pocket, but then the rest of it comes out of the comprehensive. Collision, I carry another $1,000. So you'll see those prices are 235 for comprehensive, 363 for collision. If I were to put a less of a deductible, the price will probably go up a little bit more than what I have. I carry emergency roadside. That's only $4 for 20. I carry it because I don't want to be stuck with a tow bill. If a towing company comes in and picks up my car, it's probably going to be $100 to $200, depending on how far they're going to take the car. I carry rental reimbursement of $50 per day up to a maximum of $1,500. The maximum $1,500 is not necessarily until you max it out. It's actually balance between the dates and the maxing. So it can be maxed out at 30 days probably. They won't give me a rental for more than that time. But rental, it always kicks in when you're actually in an accident and you need you get a car, let's say the next day. So that will kick in and my insurance will provide me with a rental. So I have some discounts as well. They're giving me anti-theft discount, passive restraint with airbags, anti-lock brake, seat belt, and 5-year of good driving. That is just another discount because I haven't had a car accident in 5 years, which, yeah, let's talk about that in another video. But that's my coverage. That's how you learn how to read your coverage declaration page. When someone tells you you're getting full coverage, that not necessarily means that you're fully covered. Fully covered is that you have coverage for your car and you have coverage for yourself. That's what the insurance agents, when they're selling it to you, that's what they meant. That you have coverage for you, which is the PIP coverage, personal injury protection, and you have coverage for your car, comprehensive and collision. That's it. They don't sell you anymore. The insurance companies can sell you extra, okay? So that means that they can sell you the bodily injury, they can sell you the uninsured motorist, they can sell you rental, they can sell you roadside. All of those ones, you must either ask for it or sometimes they are requirements from, like, an example, a loan company. You go get a loan on your car, you bought a new one. If you're leasing it, financing it, loaning companies, they require you to get extra coverage. They send you to get the bodily injury, they send you to get property damage for other parties. So liability coverage, bodily injury, property damage. And they also sometimes require you to get extra numbers on the PIP. That's very rare, but it's mostly coverage on liability for the other party. So, and they require certain numbers, like 100, 300. Most of the loaning companies, they do it like that because they don't want to be held responsible since they're still technically owning the car until you fully pay it. So I would recommend always getting 100, 300 on liability coverage for bodily injury, 100,000 for property damage. Those usually are the best coverage that will protect you, protect your family, protect your assets, and kick you out of any potential judgment against you because you caused an accident and the other person was really hurt. My client, the one that was suffering from the rear end with a $60,000 medical expenses, she has the option of going to court, suing that other driver directly, and potentially getting a judgment against him and trying to collect on his personal assets because of this accident. And the only way that you can protect yourself from something like that is carrying a good insurance coverage. My recommendation, get liability coverage with bodily injury and property damage. So both of the gloves, so you can get into a good defense mode. But also, you want to add the extra one: uninsured motorist, underinsured motorist, UM. Always ask for it. Insurance agents must get a letter from you saying that you rejected it, and you gotta sign it and put your signature there that you do not want uninsured motorist. Whenever an insurance agent sells you the policy and they don't get that rejection letter on that saying that you rejected uninsured motorist, the insurance companies are required to give you that coverage up to whatever you have on your liability coverage. So if you carried a $100,000 and $300,000 liability, but then you decided not to get UM, and your insurance adjuster or your insurance agent, my bad, didn't get a signed rejection letter from you, then they must give you that coverage. That is something that we're always looking out for our clients to make sure that they get the maximum coverage that they can to pay for all the expenses that they're going to incur because of a car accident, because of someone else's fault. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you are either rejecting it, which I totally don't recommend. Get that coverage non-stacked if you only have one car. Stack it if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 cars, whatever many cars you have. So I would always recommend that. If you're still confused about all of this, drop your zip code, let me know where you're at, throw it in the comments, send me a message, and I will give you a little bit more details in regards to the coverages that you should get, zip code wise. I'll help you out, read the deck pages, tell you what your coverages are, what you should get, what you shouldn't get. I always happy to do that for my clients. So please drop it in the comments, and I'm more than gladly jumping in on a quick search and tell you what's going on. Don't drive without getting the right coverage. So keep in mind, coverages are always modifiable. You don't need to wait until your renewal. You can always ask in the app, call your insurance agent, and drop in by their office and let them know, like, hey, I want to switch them out. You can always do that. That's always available for you. I would tell you, check probably after this video, check what you have. Make sure that the coverage that you have is the right one that you want to have. Protect your family, protect yourself. Be sure that you're not driving with very little coverage or no coverage at all. I do not recommend it. And I will tell you also, the right thing to do is to have coverage for those instances that it was just an accident. Hopefully you never need me, but if you do, I'm here for you. I'm ready to fight for you. Please, if you have any questions or if you're in an accident, feel free to call me. My office is always available, so I'll leave the number, details, my email address, and I'm here for you.